Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Ease India's April webinar, Academic Manuscript Editing, Key Skills and Trends with Hema Thakur. Very happy to note the high number of registrations and the large number of participants here today. It's evident that this topic is of great interest to our community and our friends and colleagues. We hope you have key takeaways, key skills that you will learn here that you can pick up for high quality editing. And maybe you learn about some tools and techniques to boost efficiency in manuscript editing. Of course, I think Hema will cover a little bit about AI, which we can't stop talking about. But where does AI, what role does it play in our field today? That's something that she will cover. So with that, I'm very happy to welcome our speaker for today's session, Hema Thakur. Thank you, Ruhi, for helping us connect with Hema and invite her to present this session for us. Say hi, Hema, before I say a few words about you. There, Hema's here. She's joined us. And let me introduce Hema quickly, and then we'll get started with the session. Hema is a BELS-certified academic editor, and she comes with more than 8 years of experience in scholarly publishing. She has worked extensively in academic editing and client service, and has also conducted numerous workshops and training sessions. She's well-versed with best practices in manuscript preparation and scholarly communication. Now she is a manager of skill development at Cactus Communications, where she trains and mentors editors. It is an absolute pleasure to have you with us today, Hema, and we look forward to an engaging interactive session with you. For all our participants here, if you have any questions, ideas, thoughts to share during this session, please post them in the chat window. If you have specific questions that you would like our speaker to address, please post them in a Q&A box. You'll see a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. Or depending on where you've placed your controls, you'll see a Q&A box. You can put your questions in there. And we will take these up for discussion at the end after Hema has covered the main content for today. All right. Thank you. And over to you, Hema.
Thank you so much, Anita, for the introduction and for setting context, as well as for organizing this. Welcome, everybody, again to this session. As Anita mentioned, I would encourage you to post your questions in the Q&A box, but also during the session, before I take up questions, I would like it to be an interactive session. So once I start presenting the slides, you all will see that there are some activity slides. So I'm counting on everybody's participation. I will be revising the chat from time to time. So let's make this a round table of sorts, and I'm counting on everybody for that. So I think without further ado, we can share the slide deck. Perfect. All right, so once again, a formal welcome to the session on academic manuscript editing, key skills and current trends. So before we begin, a quick introduction on the next slide to Editage. Editage is the flagship brand of Cactus Communications. So as the name Editage suggests, we offer specialized editing. We also offer specialized translation and publication support services to academic authors. Cactus, on the other hand, the next slide, is a global science communication and technology company. So besides editing, we offer a lot of other services. You might have heard of PaperPal, which is a writing assistant, Mind the Graph for images and figures, as well as our discovery to assist folks with their literature search. So you can explore our services on our website as well. As for me, this is my 9th year in Cactus Communications. So I started off as an editor, and now, as she mentioned, I train new editors on board. But the main reason I was asked to conduct this session today is all the AI-related forwards that I spam my team with, which made them think that I love to talk about the current landscape. So I hope I do justice here. So the next slide, we're going to have a quick look at what we're going to dive into today. So first, we will explore what researchers really value today. Then we're going to reflect on what sets us apart in a world where everyone has gotten, let's face it, Grammarly and GPT, let's be honest. And finally, since we have addressed the elephant in the room, of course, we are going to talk about AI because, as Anita said, we cannot avoid this topic. And there's no point gatekeeping either. So the next slide is just a nod to what editors already bring to the table. And you've been in the game for long enough, right? So I'm not going to blame you if you roll your eyes at the fundamentals like attention to detail, language skills, formatting, etc. So this slide is more about what we already have. And of course, I'm not discounting its importance, but the session is not going to focus on this. So before we move on, I had a quick question on the next slide. And I ask this: how has your definition of effective editing changed over time? I ask this because in my job interview back in 2016, when I was asked, what does editing mean to me, academic editing, I said something super rudimentary. I was like, editing is about improving readability or something like that. So it was a pretty basic answer, but I still got the job. I'll come back to Cactus hiring and training later. But coming back to now, how has your definition changed over time, including views of the current landscape? So I'm going to wait and I'm going to have a look at the chat. And we have 91 folks, so I am hoping for responses. What I mean is maybe initially you saw it as something, to improve language, readability, etc., etc. But in the current landscape, you realize there is a lot more than AI that you can bring to the table. And also the way you contribute to, bringing academic research to a larger group. So looking forward to your answers. I'm still awaiting um, your answers in the chat group. I believe apart it's about quality as well, exactly, and not just the quality of your edit, as Shiva mentions, also the quality of academic research in itself. It shapes that. For me, editing has become more about retaining the author's voice. Exactly, authors are very sensitive, especially academic authors. I mean, it's their content at the end of the day. You do not want to entirely rehash it or repurpose it. It's about retaining their intended meaning as well. um Over time, greatest consideration for social relevance, research methodology, and publication ethics. Excellent points. I'm going to come to these specific skill sets as well. More substantive, in-depth editing, focusing on the messaging. Yes, because we work with different audiences as well. Journal readers who are more technical in nature, as well as lay summary readers. So the messaging has to be different. Supporting authors more than simply using the red pen. Yes, I love that metaphor. This is, when we have those memes of what friends think we do versus what we actually do, the red pen always comes under the category of what friends think we do. It's not only language, but it's also technology. Exactly. And technology ties in with AI as well. Of course, there's a lot of technology apart from AI. There's automation and everything with software like Perfectit, which is not AI, but it is equally important. Beating the similarity index as well. Yes. Because so it's not just about not being caught by plagiarism checks by beating the similarity index, but also paraphrasing it, because journals encourage us to express things in our own voice, even if we quote other manuscripts and even if we cite them. So ethically we are not in the wrong because we are actually citing other manuscripts, but still journals don't encourage the overuse of quoted text even if we are going ahead and citing them, because they want us to tie the messaging in with our existing paper. Edit for grammar, of course, to enhance the manuscript. From a carpenter to a pilot, that's a very interesting analogy. Uh, Giving clients priority to timelines. Yes, we work with very sensitive timelines. So we have, journal publication deadlines. Less about my personal preferences. Exactly, I'm going to come to tailoring stuff to clients preferences as well. Manuscript formatting and grammatical. Exactly, formatting plays a key role as well. I'm going to talk about journal requirements too. um, we'll just take a few more. Recently, editing has also been teaching me to let go when needed. Oh my gosh, this I can. I think I was told by my manager, in my first year, that you will never be satisfied with your edit, and that's why we also tell our clients that editing is an iterative process. You can leave some comments for aspects that do require the client intervention, especially if it's something that you are very familiar with a subject area. It tends to be a rabbit hole because you kind of want to really overhaul everything sometimes, but you need to hold yourself back and say, okay, this is my role and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to leave comments for the client, invite the client back for another round perhaps, and engage myself in this iterative process. So this is excellent. I love how we have started this. So we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so here are a few things that researchers have written to us lately. We've had emails where researchers have said something like, I struggle with journal expectations, or like somebody mentioned, formatting. I wish I could get help from someone who really understands my field. Again, somebody mentioned retaining the intended meaning or the intended messaging. Do my conclusions align with my findings? So, as I said, it's not about just the quality of grammar and everything, it's also about the quality of the scientific rigor. Now, we are editors and we are trained to read between the lines. So, based on these quotes, you already probably inferred what they want. They are looking for editors who, we can go to the next slide. They're looking for editors who understand their work and ask thoughtful questions. That's what I mean by engaging with their research. Who can help their paper land well with journals, etc., so supporting their career goals as well. Asking the right questions, even if it means challenging assumptions, which in turn, of course, is going to strengthen scholarly impact. So it's less about fixing language and more about, amplifying voice. Again, I'm not discounting language and grammar, but it's about going beyond that. So I have another question for you on the next slide. That what does all of this actually trickle down in terms of the most important core competencies today? Like if you have an interview, or if you want to list your core competencies on a website or on your CV, what do you think are the core competencies that you would highlight in today's landscape, beyond language and grammar, given everything that we discussed? Subject knowledge, exactly, very very relevant. Subject matter expertise, unfortunately or fortunately. mm, Anybody else? I like how subject knowledge was the first one because it is going to be the first one that we speak about. Familiarity with technology, should have an eagle eye. Attention to detail is critical. Critical thinking, communication, providing credible references. Exactly. Online referencing is extremely important. Communication skills, yes, comment writing, being tactful about that. That's what we're going to cover as well. Meeting deadlines, beta reading, research and analysis ability, detail oriented. So absolutely, absolutely. We've hit the nail with that. And this ties in very neatly with what I have covered in my next slide. So I think we all are on the same page that, uh, as I mentioned, I'm very happy that the first few responses said subject knowledge, because that's what I have covered first as well. So I believe I have captured, everything accurately. Um, Adaptability, because as somebody mentioned, it's also about going beyond what I want as an editor. It's about what the client wants. Strategic thinking, like over here Namrata has mentioned, understanding how to leverage human value expertise, that falls into strategic thinking as well. Mentoring instincts, again educating the client. Peer review insights, because the clients do want that preemptive feedback. And even SEO and ethics awareness. I think somebody brought up ethics in response to my first question. So it's a big hat and all of us are already wearing it, which is why y'all mentioned all of this, that y'all would mention it in your CV. But I'm just here to hold up a mirror. because some of us tend to undermine ourselves in the current era, and also how to enable us to convey all of this expertise to the client in case they miss our subtle cues. So we'll go to the first one, subject area expertise. So, contrary to popular belief, it's not just about knowing terminology, right? I can just ask ChatGPT for a particular term. But even then, I need to make that search intentional, since these searches are super prompt sensitive. So, again, knowing what to ask or which assumptions to question, what's missing, all of that is important. And we'll have a look at an example on the next slide. It's an activity for everybody. So I was a little confused by this statement. We'll just read it together. BMI has an inherent weakness as it divides weight by height squared, making short people think they are too light and tall people think they are too heavy. Now, I got a little confused when I read this, because if we are dividing weight by height squared, and it means height is in the denominator, then short people with a lower height, the denominator is lower, so BMI will be lower. BMI will be higher because the denominator is lower. So, why would they think they're too light because of the BMI? I didn't quite understand the author's statement. So, how can we, as subject matter experts, you know, either edit this ourselves or add a comment asking the author for a clarification? How would you go about it? And there are no right or wrong answers, so please don't be shy. um, I know we come from a range of different subject area expertise, so we can just take a stab at this. Okay, define weight by height squared. Ask the actual formula. Great. um I would put a comment saying that this is a bit confusing. Can you explain? Okay, definitely comment writing helps. Any other responses before I share my inputs as well? I'm going to give it a second. The sentence is quite confusing. Please elaborate on your conclusion. Okay, great. Great. So another thing that can help us over here is a bit of online referencing, right? So when I referenced the weaknesses of BMI online, I figured that there were some other authors who also criticized the BMI for making short people think they are too light and vice versa. Uh, but then when I figured what their actual issue was that they did not have any problem with height being the denominator. That is fine, right? So I was going in the wrong direction when I read the sentence earlier. Height is fine at the denominator. It's just that these researchers who belong to the school of thought believe that height should be cubed and it should not be squared. So we can make it something like, with a background. As you know, readers require that background. So something like, we are living in a three-dimensional world, and BMI has an inherent weakness as it divides weight by height squared instead of height cubed. So that instead of height cubed bit, we are clarifying what exactly we are suggesting, right? And the rest of the sentence can remain as is. So it makes it much easier to understand for reviewers as well as journal review for readers as well as journal reviewers. Now, of course, the argument might be that journal reviewers are experts, so they should understand it as is. But again, let's face it, they have a lot of volumes. We can make their lives a tad easier and increase our chances of publication as well by not making them go through our sentences twice. um okay, so the next core competency I'm going to discuss is about adapting to client needs. Now, as somebody mentioned, it's not about what we want, it's also about what the client wants. But sometimes this gets tricky, right? So let us say the client wants a light edit, but we see that the paper is in a terrible shape, so a light edit is not going to work. It needs extensive changes. Now, you have the experience to communicate to them to understand why they want a light edit. Is it because they are scared of meaning changes? Maybe they've had a difficult experience in the past. So maybe they just need some reassurance, then maybe they need some reassurance that it's going to be iterative, we're going to leave comments if we're not sure about something, and they can always get back to us. If they want to light edit because it's at the conditional acceptance stage, then again we might need that expertise to draw on our expertise to communicate with them that it's the end goal is not publication. Some journals, yes, they may publish papers with certain errors, not commenting on the credibility of those journals, but at the end of the day, even after publication, you want your paper to be citable, to be representable. So again, explaining them why you may find it challenging to address their preference of a light edit in this case. So again, it's not about blindly following preferences, but about connecting with clients, whether we disagree or agree with them. So coming to another tricky scenario on the next slide, we have an activity where we have a disagreement between the client and the peer reviewer. So the client has basically received some feedback from the reviewer, and they want our help with toning down the response. So if you see the peer reviewer's comment, the peer reviewer of a journal, yeah, they've said something like, please include an analysis of long term environmental impact. It would also be critical to explain the outlier in figure 5. Considering the long term environmental impact is crucial to ensuring a sustainable future, because short sighted decisions can lead to irreversible damage, etc. etc. So, in the response, the author has just said, thank you for your suggestion. Collecting more data will take years. I can still do that if you need it. Just for the record, this is already a long term study compared to Smith and Zhao and Lee. How do you think we can tone down their response, or what sort of changes do you think we need to make to their response? Going to have a look at the chat. You can even you need not rewrite the whole response. It's just about any one aspect of the response that stands out to you as jarring and that you would like to change. If anybody has any inputs. A long-term study does not align with our current scope of search. Exactly. I can cite a previous long-term study if required. Ensure the author understands each concern must be addressed. Exactly. Yes. Yes. So, as Deborah has mentioned, the outlier bit was not addressed at all, maybe because it was somewhere in the middle where the reviewer has said outlier in figure 5 that we need them to address. And yes, as Edwina has mentioned, it does not align with our current scope of the study. So over here, where the author says that, collecting more data will take years, I can still do that if you need it. So does the author mean that they are willing to resubmit their manuscript after several years if the reviewer wants it? No, right? So we've got to be clear that it's not within the scope, and we've acknowledged that in the limitation perhaps, and, quoting that. And somebody also said about citations. Where is that? We had somebody saying about citations. Yes, Edwina said, I can cite a previous long term study if required. Also, they have cited some similar short term studies. So we can go ahead and say that instead of saying just for the record, this is already a long term study, that sounds a little defensive. We can say, for additional context, we have also cited Smith and Zhao and Lee in our paper because they work across similar timelines. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. So tailoring content for audiences involves, checking for aspects like accessibility to outsiders, tone alignment, the argument being compelling to a global audience. So that's the kind of invisible work experienced editors do, sort of bridging that space between the author and the reader, and even the journal itself, right? So we'll have a look at some examples with journal requirements in the next set of activities on the next slide. So BMJ publishers, so all journals, they have some special requirements. So BMJ requires a section called what this study adds. All right. So let's say the author actually added a section saying what this study adds, but they have just written something very basic, like this study adds to the literature by exploring another case. What sort of comment would you add to the for the author? Encouraging them to add more information. What sort of information are you going to be looking for? Because it's great that the study has explored a distinct case from what has been explored in previous studies, but yes, how does it advance the understanding of the field exactly? How is it unique? Yes, more details of the results and the implications. Exactly. So, um, we need to explain why there is merit in exploring another case. So replications are fine. In fact, they are encouraged in academics, right? But why are we doing another case? Is it to test the robustness of previous findings that were probably limited to a certain geographical setup or to a laboratory setup? So, that needs to be established, your uniqueness. Saying this does not suffice. So, of course, certain specific details about the case. So, unlike previous studies, we observed or examined the global south, something like that. Okay, plus one does not allow speculation or strong claims in the conclusion. Now, here the author seems to have made a tall claim. If we see this statement, we examined a sample of 10 individuals and found that cutting junk allowed them to sleep longer and more restfully, which proves our hypothesis and establishes that dietary choices have an impact on sleep habits. Any inputs on the kind of comments we can add for the author? Because they have made a tall claim by saying they've proven something and established something. So uh, proves and established, exactly, for a more speculative tone. So something like which supports our hypothesis and indicates that dietary choices, because we have a sample of 10 individuals, yes, seems to support, exactly, Namrata. So we have a sample of 10 individuals. It's right there. Even if we had a sample of 1,000 individuals, it's not the entire population yet, right? So we're not proving anything. Yes, we are supporting something. We are indicating something. And even, cutting junk allowed them to sleep longer. For all we know, that may be correlated rather than causal. Or maybe because they are sleeping longer, their appetite hormones are regulated, and that's why they're able to cut junk, right? So again, we are indicating that dietary choices have an impact on sleep habits. We're not proving anything. We're not proving causality. We're just indicating the correlation. Yes, Deborah, as you mentioned, we are indicating, we're not establishing, or may have an impact is also a good way of putting it across. The Journal of Marketing, it requires studies to connect to managerial relevance. So something like consumers tend to exhibit choice paralysis when presented with multiple similar product options. How could you make this statement more relevant for managers? Over here, we're just saying, okay, consumers prefer so and so. Okay, exactly. What should managers do about it? So, as somebody said, reduce the number of choices. What does choice paralysis mean for the product designer? So something like managers must choose product displays that address consumers' choice paralysis. So again, we are not adding content on behalf of the author. We can always ask them to add something in our comments. But again, we are making the statement managerial focused, right? And the final example over here, American Economic Review, they prefer a results first approach in abstract. So they like us to, cut to the chase. They don't want us to start off with a background like we usually do. But then again, doesn't something like this sound super abrupt? Like if you start an abstract with, we found a significant effect of music on cognitive behavioral therapy. So how would you make this sound a little more natural while still complying with the guidelines of American Economic Review? One line problem statement, yes. Or we can, in fact, or maybe I'll wait for one more answer before I share my inputs. Anybody else has any ideas? I would include data from the results. Great, great. That's a choice, and we can, make it sound less abrupt with something like through XYZ simulations, we found that music has a significant effect on so and so. So again, you're mentioning what kind of simulations you're conducting. So you're giving them some context, right? You're not starting abruptly, but you're still adhering to the journal's guidelines. Okay, so the next slide we can go to. Communication with authors. Personal touch is a big point, a pain point with AI, and authors they do appreciate communication that educates them, preempts peer reviewer feedback, and addresses author concerns diplomatically. Like the example we just saw, where the author wanted a light edit, but we suggested a heavier edit. So these skills really tie in with each other, and you are going to see some overlaps. So we can move to the activity in the interest of time. The next slide. So which of the following comments, they add real value? So the first comment, the editor has said, I have revised the compound exhibited high efficacy to the compound demonstrated a 70% reduction in tumor growth based on information provided in the results. For whatever reason, because specificity strengthens scientific claims. Would you say this comment is useful? I know everything is context dependent, but just a preliminary overview. Yes. Yes. Okay, so I agree, it is useful. And it also conveys our expertise to the author, because we are saying that we have gleaned through all the sections. We have looked at all the sections, even at the results. So we are not editing the document piecemeal. We have complete context of the paper, which is again a big pain point with AI, because we can't, paste the entire paper with GPT, especially. So yeah, we have complete context here, and we have made the change accordingly. So we are conveying our understanding. Um, the second one, I have revised the sentence as the original phrasing was somewhat unclear, which would make it difficult for readers to fully grasp the intended meaning. Ensuring clarity in academic writing is crucial, as it helps convey ideas more effectively and prevents any misinterpretation. Anupam has said frivolous. That tone would come across as so condescending. Attitude of the editor is problematic here. Exactly, exactly. Over here, in simple terms, in the second comment, what we've just said is, I have done my job, right? Uh, so I have clarified a sentence, because that is part of the scope of even a basic edit. And you're welcome, because I have done what is expected of me. So this is again not a useful comment. Of course, if we elaborated on the example and made it more educative for future, that's fine. But this in its current state is frivolous and not useful at all, as you all have mentioned. Okay, the third one, they say, I have replaced precision with accuracy because while precision refers to consistency of repeated measurements, accuracy denotes how close a measurement is to the true value. In this context, since you are discussing how well the model's predictions align with real world data, accuracy would be a more appropriate term. Nitpicking, okay. Anybody else? No real value. Useful, pedantic but useful. Okay, so yes, this was designed to be a little tricky. Editors as teachers, my clients appreciate this. Exactly. So this kind of is client specific. Not a lot of clients like this nitpicky approach. They're like, okay, just tell us if our intervention is required. That again ties in with catering to client preferences. But some, they appreciate such educative comments for future jobs. And over here again, we are conveying our understanding, because we are not replacing precision with a synonym. We are replacing it with something that means that has a different definition. And we are also explaining why the alternative is suitable in this context, so it could convey our understanding to the client, as long as we are working with a client who does appreciate, who does tend to appreciate such comments. And that is again something that we will, only be able to garner from our experience with such clients. Okay, so the next slide we can come to. Okay, honing editorial instincts. So, based on your experience, you know when something seems, GPT generated in a manuscript, or when you seem to have read something similar before. And you are also very adept at online referencing. So, the chances of catching something unethical are a lot stronger for you folks, the experienced pool. So, we'll have a look at some tricky scenarios on the next slide. Let's say you are editing a manuscript and you come across an oddly polished paragraph. So the rest of the paper is not written very well. One particular paragraph is looking very polished. You Google a sentence from it and you find an identical passage in a published article. It's an editorial nightmare. We prefer to not be aware of such things so that we don't have to engage in these tricky communications. But if you do find it, how do you tactfully convey this to the author? Is something you've dealt with, Namrita. Any tips on how you dealt with it? I might not convey it tactfully. Say it as it is. Please check if the text is already published. Mhm. Ask if that information should be cited. Yes. Would you like to Google this paragraph? Perfect. As Hina mentioned about Googling this paragraph, we can be upfront about it, saying that, again, we were not looking for ways to, get the author into trouble. It's just that as I was researching the topic of your study to understand it better, so I was not checking for plagiarism or anything, I just happened to discover that some sentences are similar to so and so sources. I am concerned that this might pose a problem for your submission. Okay, so here you're conveying that you're on the client side, you are concerned about them, and it's not a personal attack because it's something that might arise during submission from the journal side. So you're being quite tactful over here. Exactly, Yatindra mentioned, pointing out that the journal is likely to view this negatively. So it's not personal, it's the journal stance. Okay, this seems to occur in so and so documented. Could you please clarify if you were quoting from this works as well? Yes. Could we include the citation to prevent any misunderstanding? Yes, this works perfectly as well. I think this session can also work, to create a repository of sorts where we exchange comments with each other. In the second scenario, it's a bit better off because the author has appropriately cited sources and used quotation marks. But they have relied excessively on direct quotations. Let's say around 50% of the manuscript consists of verbatim text from cited papers. Now, how would your communication change here? Point out that the journal is likely to view this negatively. Exactly. So, best case scenario, point to the right guidelines, refer to journal guidelines and fair use principles. Exactly. Again, quoting journals as much as possible in terms of why do they encourage paraphrasing, or to, convey the ideas in your own voice, tie it in with your own study. Again, you're giving importance to the author's study over here, so that their study remains the main focus. So, again, you're placing the spotlight on the author, and in fact pitching it as if it's because you want their study to the basically the citations to focus on their study or to tie in well with their study, and because journals encourage paraphrasing to explain things in their own voice. This is something you would encourage the author to do. In the third scenario, the manuscript lists a research assistant as a co-author, but in the acknowledgements, the same person is credited only for helping with data collection. Now, how are you going to handle this? Authors do not feature in acknowledgements. Great. If the RA only did data collection, they may not be credited as a co-author. Okay. So of course, this is technically correct, and this is what I would convey to the author as well. A good idea is to include some, for the previous scenario, somebody said quoting journal guidelines. I think that would work over here as well. There are a lot of ethical guidelines online that we can find about authorship criteria. If we quote those, again, we're making it less confrontational and saying, hey, this is a journal requirement. It's not something I am dictating or I am telling you to do. It's something that I encourage you to do because this is what, publishers generally require. Okay. We can move on to the next slide. Right. So we have discussed the most important core competencies. We will just breeze through how we equip editors with them. What we expect them to have at the hiring stage at Cactus, what we train for, and what they learn on the job. So we can go to the next slide. So, despite a very rudimentary answer in my interview that hills in place, which you all can have a look at once you all receive the presentation, what I may not have had is experience with, publications. Adapting because we all come with some confirmation bias, let's face that. Everything Cactus specific, so all processes that external folks shouldn't be expected to be aware of. um and what is learned on the job is something like addressing formatting nuances. They're explored to more and more exposed to more and more formatting guidelines. So I had this time where I read a guideline that said indicate the approximate position of figures and tables in the text, which basically meant those kind of placeholders, table 1 about here or something, and I misunderstood it in my first year, and I said, okay, table 1 is on page 52. And yeah, so again, this is something that we learn on the job through feedback, through client feedback, through reviewer feedback, etc. Building domain knowledge as we keep updating ourselves. Honing instincts is something I had covered earlier, and it happens only with time and practice. Making decisions quickly, and we learn this best on the job because we have to make decisions quickly. There's no other option. Understanding expectations beyond guides, reading between the lines. So, as I said, this presentation will be available later as well. We can rather focus on a recap in the next slide. So, we started with the foundational skills. Then we moved on to experience driven expertise, setting you apart from AI, which brings us to the part that we have probably been waiting for. So the next slide, as it mentions, AI is evolving. So let us acknowledge that it is affecting the publishing world, and we will be discussing what it can do, what it can't do, and our role. So this is not an AI bashing session. That's why we have a slide on what AI tends to get right, giving credit where it's due. They can make good changes for language. These tools, they can flag repetition, formatting, identifying technical terms, summarizing reviewer comments, or to some extent, even flag missing citations. So, yes, they are useful, but they are one piece of the puzzle. We can go to the next slide. So, this is not going to be your, run of the mill theoretical session. We are actually going to have a look at real examples based on conversations with GPT. But before that, just a quick overview of what typically goes wrong. So, AI might lack some contextual awareness. It may unnecessarily add or delete text. It's super sensitive to prompts, can present some domain gaps, and of course hallucinations. So I don't know how many know that there was a lawyer who was recently debarred for citing a case that did not exist thanks to AI. So now we're going to have a look at some examples. All right, so I have shared links to actual conversations with GPT over here, which you all can access once you all receive the presentation. So I have just highlighted the important aspects on these slides just to make you understand that why our intervention is still required. Now, in this example, in the context of the pandemic, basically, the author had said in the original that online and digital teaching is positioning itself as an alternative to face teaching. So in GPT's edited version, it said the same thing, online and digital teaching. Then it changed a bit of the latter part. Now, online and digital teaching. So I asked it that, hey, how is online teaching different from digital teaching? So it said that, digital teaching is actually a subset of online and offline teaching, because you can use it in a Zoom classroom, digital tools like iPads. You can use it in, an offline classroom as well, face to face. So I said, okay, if that's what digital tools are, then how are we saying digital teaching is an alternative to face instruction? So then it said, yes, you are right. We can instead say digital based online teaching has emerged as an alternative to face instruction. So, what I mean by this is, I had to actually nudge it in that right direction, and that domain expertise was required, right? Um, okay, so we can see the next example. Over here, I again, it just unnecessarily add, okay, 10 minutes remain for the end of the session. Okay, so I'm just going to breeze through this. I just added some, so basically GPT added some context over here, saying one of the earliest instead of the earliest and most influential, even though this is okay in opinion pieces. Okay, y'all can go through the rest of the example in the conversation. We'll go to the next slide. Over here, I had asked it to reduce the word count. Now, when you'll see the paragraph, when you'll go through the conversation, you'll will see that there is scope to reduce the word count, but it instead went ahead and deleted citations like yang and she. It deleted mainly before including software, which is an impact change. Advocated by the government, strategies advocated or supported by the government is not the same thing as government strategies. So again, a very incorrect change. Um, and it said it reduced the value of undervalued firms, which means it increased the undervaluation, but GPT said it diminished undervaluation. Again, a misunderstanding. You can go to the next slide. And of course, there was this awkwardly constructed variable duration of hotel services, which it retained as it is, because GPT tends to retain variable names as they are. So I said, can this be framed better? Then it said, yes, total years in hotel service. Okay, the next one. Here I had said alpha of zero point 0.9 purposely. It did not correct it to alpha of zero point 0.1, that is significance level of 0.1, or confidence of zero point 0.9. So that was again a technical error. The next one. This is best viewed because there's no before and after, so you can have a look at the conversation yourself. I had asked it for some citations, and it gave me some. Two of the three citations it gave me did not actually exist. It's not just that the link was broken, but when I manually Googled it, I couldn't find it either. So, yes, I think we can move on to the next slide. So this is what we've already covered. I won't recap it in the interest of time. Basically, we need to ensure that our expertise comes across. And I would just end it by saying that the most important takeaway, besides everything that is mentioned over here, that I hope we've driven home, is that all of our best editors have one thing in common, and that is they happen to be human. So let's keep using our sentience to our advantage. And with that, I shall wrap up the session and take questions as well as your feedback. I would love to hear your go through your feedback in the comments. How did you all find this session?
Would anybody like to post any questions? Any other questions? Please let us know in the Q&A box. We'll take them up. Thank you
Or
very
if
much.
you have any
Yeah.
examples to share as well, I was saying,
Did you want
from
to
your
share
expertise.
another example or something like that? Yeah.
Since it's a round table, if they have any expertise to share as well.
Anupam has a question. Are companies developing AI apps that will make human editors redundant? And do you have
Not
any
at
inside
all.
info on that?
So the not at all was for the second bit that will make human editors redundant. Are they developing AI apps? Of course, we have to keep in pace with the trends. There's no use of not, leveraging its advantages. It's like when the calculator came out. It's not like mathematicians were like, we want to be relevant, so we're not going to use the calculator. We are going to leverage its strengths, but at the same time, making our expertise come across. So I know it's a cliche, but it's also a chance for how we can show, how we are beyond AI to kind of bifurcate that. Um, what AI can offer and what we can offer. So if somebody needs something super quick, or can AI be used for a basic proofread? Can our editors, on the other hand, be trained for subtler aspects that require their intervention, like the kind of examples I've shown you, the technical aspects? So I think that is going to be the aim, whether companies want to or not. It's not entirely a choice now, given the current landscape. Which editorial skills will be less required with better AI tools? So I wouldn't. So even though I had started off saying that language and grammar is just the basic skill and it's not something that we will be focusing on in this session, uh, I wouldn't say it's less required. It's, yes, not the focus exactly here. uh, because we are focusing on doing what AI cannot do, so going beyond AI, right? But again, if you are reviewing GPT's outputs and you are sort of expressing that in your own words, language and grammar is still essential. So all of your basic skills are still essential. It's just that we need to go beyond that. So I wouldn't say anything is less required or less useful right now. Would love to have another session focusing on tools, absolutely. Any other questions? I'm not a researcher myself. How do I improve my knowledge and skills that will help in editing? So I think again this comes with exposure as we edit more academic manuscripts, or as we can even for our the manuscripts that we are editing, the sort of online researches that we do, I think that helps as well. There are a lot of platforms where you can read about academic writing. Like our company has Editage Insights. There are a lot of other such platforms as well that you can, go through. Um, so yeah, that's an option as well. A totally different
Uma,
approach
there
to
are a
editing.
couple of questions in the Q&A box. Are you able to see them? Should I read them out for you?
Yeah, I think if you could read them out, it would be great.
Okay, so Bhavani says, in what way could peer reviewers approach the editor technically? I'm not sure. Bhavani, could you explain could you just elaborate on that? The peer reviewers, what would they like to know from the editor? If you could just elaborate on that and explain what you'd like answered, we'll address that. Nishtha has a question for you on is there a free, she has a background in law. Her subject matter expertise is in law, and she has 18 years experience as an editor, and she'd like to know if there's a freelance part-time role for copy editing content for law journals at Cactus. Maybe
You can definitely write to me and I can forward your query to the editorial recruitment team. I'll give my email ID here. I've given it in the chat.
Bhavani, would you like to rephrase the question? Okay, Alice. Alice has a great, okay, let's look at that as a, thank you, Alice, for your question. Can we have another session focusing on just the AI examples, please? And we'll definitely put that up for another session. We'll take that as a topic. Only
Absolutely.
focus on, yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
those are very helpful, Hema. Thank you so much for the effort to create those examples and presenting them here. I'm
Thank
sure
you. Thank
everybody
you.
will also
Yeah.
reflect on them. And
Yes, yes. I considered it important to even provide the GPT links because it shouldn't look like, we are trying to bash AI and we are, coming up with some doctored examples just to show that AI is not enough. These are, real proofs that they still require our nudging and everything else.
so we do have some other questions. What we will do is, since it's the end of our hour of the webinar, we will take these questions and we will try to, if Hema is willing to, we will
Sure.
get answers for you. And we will definitely take up the topics that you have suggested and requested for future webinars. So thank you very much, Hema, for a very helpful session and for all the examples,
Pleasure.
tips, and suggestions from your experience. Thank you, everyone, for your active participation. We hope you found Ease India's webinar helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at another webinar soon. Thank you, Mary and Lucy, for all the support in hosting this event and making sure everything went smoothly. If you have any feedback, questions, ideas, other requests for future sessions, please send us an email. You may write to me. I'm putting my email in the chat box, or you could write to Mary also, and I'm putting in Mary's email. AMA style, Anupam, yes, we'll. And yeah, questions on this topic, Hema's email ID, Mary has, Hema's email ID, I hope you have there. Maybe we'll also send you these email IDs together with the recording and other resources that will come to you by email after the session. And you can write to Hema for additional questions on this topic. If you have requests for future sessions, please feel free to write to Mary or me. Our email IDs will also be there. Okay. Yes, there, Mary has put her. Thank you, Mary. All right. And yes, we have plans to host more webinars and events this year. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much for your participation. Keep writing to us. And thank you once again, Hema. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.